Hey guys, what's going on? Steven back again, and I'm back with another 40k video from the channel, More Lore. And the title of the video is The 10 Most Powerful Chapter Masters in All of Warhammer 40k. I'm going to split this video up into two parts just because the video is 40 minutes long and it is really hot out today, so I would like to get my air conditioner back on as soon as possible. But yeah, before we begin, let me know, who is your favorite chapter master and why? Is it because you're a fan / play said chapter, you like that character's model, you like that character's lore, or you like, I don't know, the rules of that character? You know? Let me know. Alright, so anyways, let's get on to the video. Here we go. Look at all
Giants, even among the transhuman space marines, chapter masters are veteran soldiers, great leaders, and terrifying combatants all at once. They carry powerful relics earned over many centuries of battle and coordinate some of the most awe-inspiring fighting forces humanity has ever known in war zones that stretch across the stars. These are the 10 most powerful chapter masters in 40k. What other chapter is more appropriate to begin with than the Ultramarines? Sorry, Dark Angels fans, but in terms of chapter masters, there really is only one warrior that should be starting a list of Space Marine commanders, and it's definitely not Azrael. The Ultramarines are arguably the most important chapter in the Imperium.
I see how it is.
They were the largest legion before the end of the Horus Heresy. Their network of successor chapters is the largest cooperative fighting force in the Imperium, and their Primarch, Rabute Guilliman, not only wrote the Codex Astartes and was the first Primarch to return in the present age, but is also the de facto ruler of humanity. And Marneus Augustus Calgar has been their chapter master for many hundreds of years.
Plus,
like many of the older commanders on this list, Calgar's exact timeline is hard to get any solid numbers on. Calgar as a character was created way back in 1st edition 40k.
Oh my god.
At that time, it was recorded that he became chapter master in the latter years of M39. However, in that edition, his chief librarian was a man named Ilyan Nastase, who was a half Eldar. So, needless to say, that information has been fully retconned. What we do know is that a young Marneus Calgar was the heir to one of the noble households of the planet Nova
How did that happen?
And that he was called to take the trials that could make him a space marine. However, the Marneus Calgar who went into those trials and the young man who walked out were not the same person. Calgar had a good friend, a serf by the name of Tacitan, and the two were inseparable, even training under the same teachers together to prepare for the Ultramarine trials.
Or failed.
So when Calgar was called to make his attempt, he brought Tacitan along with him.
Oh, and
unfortunately for the boys, Chaos cultists who were intent on disrupting the trial process stepped in and began slaughtering the stronger applicants. Marneus and Tacitan made an attempt to stop them, but they were children and were overwhelmed, with Marneus giving his life to save his friend. Tacitan managed to survive and took on Calgar's name so his legend could live on, and that is the man who eventually became Lord Macrogh. Marneus Calgar is known for being a fearless and indomitable man, even for a space marine, one who embodies the honor of the Ultramarines, and who is known for his quick thinking under fire and keen tactical mind. Of all the space marines that have risen through the ranks of the 13th Legion, Calgar is the most decorated, second only to Guilliman himself.
That's deep.
The records in the Ultramarine Fortress of Hera have 28 volumes dedicated to Calgar, at least twice that of any living Ultramarine. Dreadnoughts don't count. They are cheating by driving their big stompy coffins around to rack up extra points. It is difficult to pick out singular events in the life of such an accomplished warrior, but some of the highlights include his battle against the Swarm Lords of Hive Behemoth during the Battle of Macrogh, his one-man defense of a pivotal gate against an entire orc horde during the Siege of Zalathras for a full day, his victory in a duel against an Eldari avatar of Cain, and many more. Marneus Calgar has led his warriors against aliens, demons, and traitors for almost half a millennium, but even these major battles would not be the Lord Macrogh's greatest achievement. In the final years of M41, the Imperium was devastated by the 13th Black Crusade, and the Archmagos Belisarius Cawl had a solution. He and his Eldari allies revived the Ultramarines Primarch Rabute Guilliman and unleashed Khal's Primaris Marines to help fight the tide of chaos. These developments shocked...
That always interests me. Like, how do you get, like, approval for, like, something like that? How do you just let, you know, Eldar in to be like, you know, help revive our Primarch? You know, with the way the Imperium is, how did all that, you know, come to be? Like, was that done without the Imperium knowing? Was that just an Ultramarines thing, you know, that they did, like, in secret and stuff like that? Or how, you know, just how do you just let some Eldar come in and be like, yeah, we will totally revive your Primarch? You know, I don't know. I just need some more, like, background on an event like that, you know? I mean, I understand there's, like, some alliances here and there, you know, maybe some battlefield alliances, but, like, I don't, you know, I just never understood how something like that could happen. Like, you know, the Necron stepping in and be like, hey, this Golden Throne, we can fix that for you. We can make that a whole lot better. We can power that thing up much better for you. Oh, okay, go ahead. Like, you know, I don't know. I gotta get some more lore on that.
The traditionalist Imperium, and while the Ultramarines had trust in their Gene Father, other Astartes did not have that same bond. But Calgar knew that he was well respected by the other chapter
masters. Yeah, they did
masters
so good with him in the game.
For hundreds
I mean,
of
come
years,
on, he looks badass as hell.
He volunteered to be the first of the firstborn Astartes to attempt the dangerous new surgery that they came to call the Rubicon Primaris. The gamble worked, although Calgar died on the operating table before being revived, and a newly reborn Primaris Calgar took control of his chapter once again, becoming a shining beacon for acceptance of the new Primaris recruits.
I will lead them through.
And so was a large part of why they were so readily accepted by the otherwise paranoid Space Marines. Even though some of his war gear changed after that harrowing surgery, Calgar's most recognizable piece of gear is still the legendary Gauntlets of Ultramar. This set of power fists were reclaimed by the Ultramarine Primarch himself after defeating a Chaos Champion and have powerful bolters attached to each fist. He also now wears a suit of Mark 10 Gravis armor reinforced with a relic iron halo which projects a powerful energy shield. Tacitan is no more, but he has kept the oath he made and has ensured that the name of Marneus Augustus Calgar will never be forgotten. Despite our introduction of Marneus Calgar, it was genuinely difficult to decide whether he should be the first Astartes leader on our list or the venerable Commander Dante, chapter master of the Blood Angels. Luis Dante is frankly a legend. He is the oldest living Astartes. Again, dreadnoughts don't count. And master of a chapter with an illustrious history and a dark curse.
I think he
has weathered more than any Space Marine should and continues leading his warriors despite being more tired of life with each passing day. Dante was born in 447 M40. That's right, he's over 1,600 years old at the time of recording this and has served just about 1,400 of those years as the Lord of the Blood Angels. Like we said, he's very old, maybe even older than any Astartes was intended to live naturally. Despite that, however, Dante is still a fearsome combatant, both as a tactician and as a warrior in his own right.
That's just a powerful picture right there.
His story has been marked with miracle after miracle, having been hounded by signs his entire life that point to him being the focus of a prophecy that tells of a golden warrior who will be the last one standing between the darkness and the Emperor. Something the old Marine has come to believe more strongly in recent years. It started with his trials as a child. Young Dante was a sickly boy, and his father forbade him
Do you think something like that's actually
the trials of the blessed
come
angels,
true, or do you think that's
who
just
sometimes
like
came to take members of their clan to the stars? But Dante wanted to make a difference, to help people,
if it happens,
and so he snuck away to try and reach the trials on his own. Dante would have died in the deserts on the way if a vision of the Sanguinor had not pointed him in the direction of water and safety. Seeing as how the Sanguinor tends to appear during the Blood Angel's time of greatest need, it seems that even then, Dante was marked for greatness. That said, his early career wasn't very remarkable. He reached the rank of captain at around his 300th year, but tragedy would strike in the later years of M40 as he would join his chapter during the Callius insurrection, where he would become the last surviving captain of the Blood Angels after they were ambushed by a massive Chaos fleet while regrouping in orbit. Once the dust had settled, barely 200 red-armored Marines were left in fighting strength, and the remaining chapter priests voted Dante in as the next chapter master. Dante would lead his chapter through some of the most brutal conflicts in Imperial history. He sliced the Bloodthirster Scarbrand in two during single combat. He commanded the Imperial forces against the war boss Ghazghkull Meg Uruk Thraka during the Second War for Armageddon,
impressive.
and he was almost killed while dueling a massive swarm lord of Hive Fleet Leviathan during the devastation of Baal. It was here that Dante would once again receive a vision from the Sanguinor and his Primarch Sanguinius. As Dante lay dying, the poor old man was told that he wasn't finished yet, and even though he begged for rest, he would be saved by the newly risen Primarch Relute Guilliman.
Not yet,
Guilliman
son.
was so impressed by the aged Marine commander that he would give him the title of Lord Regent of Imperium Nihilus, the region of the Imperium that has been hidden from the light of the Emperor. With yet another heavy burden placed on his shoulders, Dante got to work. His first order of business was to cross the Rubicon Primaris like his counterpart Marneus Calgar, a dangerous procedure especially considering Dante's age, but it gave him renewed strength and allowed him to continue fighting. Unsurprisingly, Dante is known best for his resolve. In a chapter where warriors can sometimes fall to a mysterious blood rage, Commander Dante must be seen to be entirely in control. And he is. His command style focuses on pushing an enemy off balance until they make a mistake, and then seizing the opportunity with speed and ferocity. He is armed with a legendary Infernus pistol named the Perdition Pistol, as well as an ancient power axe appropriately named the Axe Mortalis. But these two are not what make him stand out on the battlefield. He also wears his signature Golden Artificer power armor, equipped with a jump pack and a radiating golden halo, framing his most known feature, the Death Mask of Sanguinius. A golden mask modeled after the features of Sanguinius himself, a beacon to all of his fellow angels that their Primarch still fights with them. Now, if Dante represents the bright
if and when Dante dies,
of the
what's
Blood
going to happen with
Angels,
that mask? Is that
chapter
going to be
master
like
represents
something that they
savagery.
put away,
Gabriel Seth is the master
you know, as a
of the
holy
Flesh
relic, or
Bearers,
will they
second founding
hand that off to
successor
like
chapter of the Blood
someone else,
Angels,
like the
with a particular focus,
Black Sword of the
or
Black Templars,
rather
where there's always an
particular
Emperor's
burden?
Champion, and
Its warriors are more susceptible
previous
to falling
Emperor's
to the
Champion
Black
died, now
Rage.
you take the
The
sword.
Black Rage
Is
is
that going
the
to happen with
final
that mask?
legacy of the Blood Angels Primarch Sanguinius. As one of the most powerful psychers among his brothers, Sanguinius had a deep connection to his gene sons, and although this allowed him to pacify the rage that defined the warriors of the Ninth Legion, it also doomed them when the angelic Primarch was killed at the hands of his brother, Horus. Ever since then, the psychic echoes of that final duel have caused Blood Angels warriors to go mad with rage randomly, an affliction that can only be cured with death. Shortly after the Flesh Terrors were formed, it became apparent that their gene seed had a flaw that made them more likely to fall into the rage, and so the chapter became known as bloodthirsty killers who often took massive casualties in the course of their duties. Thanks to this, the chapter is believed to be on the brink of extinction, as it cannot replace casualties faster than they occur, or at least that was the case before Gabriel Seth took control. The nature of the rage meant that the chapter was more likely to cycle through even chapter masters faster than other Astartes forces. However, Seth has reigned for over 200 years now, and in that relatively short time, he has reformed the entire chapter's image. Not much is actually known about his younger years, only that before he was given the role of chapter master, he had developed a deep regret for all his brothers that he had seen fall to the rage. It had become so bad, in fact, that he was actually told after he became chapter master that his chapter would not survive for more than a century. Between this information and his own sadness for his lost brothers, Seth wanted to ensure
Sounds like
that
you
no matter
took that
what
as a
happened
challenge.
to them,
We'll see
the
about that.
memory of the Flesh Terrors would not be of some warmongering, terrifying brutes, but one of honor and pride. He immediately began enacting policies that were designed to not only make the chapter look more in control, but also gave them space to be who they were without judgment. The Flesh Terrors became known for being the first to respond to distress calls, and they often chose battles that kept them isolated from their allies in order to reduce friendly fire incidents and to stop other Imperials from seeing
That's
the
going to give
Flesh
them a pretty
Terrors'
good
wild
reputation.
assaults.
Distress call.
For his
Boom,
part,
we're there.
Seth controlled the rage by leaning into it, promoting aggression even in downtime, and it does seem to be working, but whether it's enough to save his chapter remains to be seen. Seth himself is noted for being able to keep the rage under control. His is a cold and calculated rage, which he uses even in negotiations and banter with his fellow Astartes. This has understandably given him a reputation for being unpleasant to work with, but Seth is there to win battles for the Emperor, not make friends, and his record speaks for itself. During the closing years of M41, as the Imperium was under attack and crumbling, Seth and his Flesh Terrors had recovered enough to be trusted with key defensive positions on Baal, the Blood Angels' homeworld, as it was attacked by Hive Fleet Leviathan. Seth even took overall command of the Blood Angels when Commander Dante was injured in his duel with the Tyranid Swarmlord.
Oh, wow.
For War Gear, aside from the usual Artificer armor and Iron Halo afforded to most other chapter masters, Seth is armed with his iconic Eviscerator chainsword, the Blood Reaver. Considering the preferences of his chapter, it is fitting that he would use a massive two-handed chain blade. As for the man himself, he is a talented combatant, using his tall frame and his control of the Black Rage to overwhelm his enemies. After all, if he and his warriors are doomed to die, then he may as well do so in battle, leading his brothers into conflicts as the very tip of the spear. The Space Wolves are led by one of the oldest chapter masters, Logan Grimnar, known as the Old Wolf. His relentless thirst for battle and unshakable pride have drawn comparisons to their Primarch Eamon Russ. As a youth, he survived a brutal ambush that wiped out his clan, impressing the watching Space Wolves so much that they rescued and recruited him into their ranks. He continued to impress during his formative years, from his ability to naturally adapt to the gene seed and the life of a Space Marine to his successes on the battlefield. He was a highly charismatic warrior even then, and would eventually become a part of the household of his company leader, the Wolf Lord Asvald Stormrack. When Asvald fell in battle, Grimnar was unanimously voted in as his replacement, an act that would only serve as foreshadowing to his ascension to Great Wolf after Chapter Master Sigvald's death at the hands of a Dark Eldar succubus in 440 M41.
Ouch.
His first trial as a Chapter Master was definitely extreme, probably more deadly than almost any other leader on this list. Just 4 years after his confirmation as Master of the Rout, the Space Hulk Devourer of Stars appeared in the Armageddon system, and a huge Chaos force led by the Demon Primarch Angron overwhelmed the defenders. Grimnar and his Space Wolves were quick to respond, and they brought the Grey Knights with them. Together, they were able to defeat Angron and his band of chaos-worshipping traitors, but at great cost. It is standard practice for the Inquisition to purge any mortal humans who had come into contact with chaos in order to control the spread of corruption. However, having just fought alongside many of these people in a vicious war, Grimnar refused to allow the Inquisition to just murder them, and so tensions rose. In an attempt to keep the peace, the Great Wolf attended a parley with Inquisitor Lord Kai Snaras, but it was a trap, and the Inquisition ships destroyed 4 Space Wolf vessels before taking Grimnar hostage in an attempt to make them surrender. Well, the Inquisitor clearly hadn't read his history, because Grimnar very quickly reminded him that the Rout were the Emperor's executioners for a reason. Despite being arrested and surrounded, Grimnar slaughtered every Grey Knight warrior in his presence before teleporting to safety. The war that followed was called the Months of Shame, and we are absolutely going to have to do a video on that at some point. But the Inquisition's bruised ego led them to laying siege to the Space Wolf homeworld of Fenris itself, prompting Grimnar to teleport onto the Lord Inquisitor's ship with 20 of his Terminator-clad Wolfguard and ending the war by removing the Inquisitor from the equation. A peace was agreed upon shortly afterwards.
That Inquisitor,
and Grimnar has continued to lead the Space Wolves to victory after victory against enemies from both inside the Imperium and outside. They fought the Ecclesiarchy when it tried to impose the worship of the Emperor on them. They returned to Armageddon during the Third War. They defended Fenris system from the demon Primarch Magnus the Red and the Revenge of the Thousand Suns, and many, many more. Grimnar's leadership was recently tested when Rabute Guilliman arrived with his Primaris recruits. The fiercely independent Space Wolves initially rejected them, arguing that no warrior could be a true wolf without setting foot on Fenris. However, Grimnar's stance changed after one of the first Primaris Marines proved himself in their trials. Though he still distrusts the Ultramarines, he has come to accept the new warriors into his ranks. Grimnar wears the Terminator armor of his former Wolf Lord Aswald Stormrack. The weapon he wields is actually a trophy, an axe that he claimed from a champion of the Chaos God Khorne, which has since then been reforged and named Morkai. This has been the only weapon able to wound Magnus during their encounter, and although it whispers blood and rage into his ears, he has not faltered once and continues to use it against the enemies of the Emperor and the Rout. Alright, I think we've teased the first enough. How about we talk about the Keeper of Truth, the Supreme Grand Master of the Dark Angels, Azrael.
Here we go.
Originally under the rule of the Primarch Lionel Johnson, the Dark Angels have since gained the reputation of being one of the most powerful, yet also most secretive of the original Space Marine forces. The Dark Angels are an extremely suspicious and monastic chapter, their members spending a lot of their time in prayer and focusing on rising through an internal set of ranks that allow warriors to learn more and more truths as they prove themselves capable and trustworthy. And as Keeper of Truth, Azrael sits at the very top of that system. Little is known of Azrael's past before joining the Dark Angels, aside from the fact that he was recruited from the feral world of Chimeria. From here, he disappears from the records for a couple decades, and then reappears as a member of the Deathwing, the chapter's first company veterans.
Interesting.
From there, he was swiftly elevated to the position of captain of the Third Company, and then to master of the Deathwing in the later years of M41, a position that many leaders of the Dark Angels have held before. It is very on brand for the leader of the secretive Dark Angels to have basically no records of his early career, but thankfully we do know how he was elevated to the position of Supreme Grand Master. When his predecessor, Naberius, was slain by a demon prince, Azrael and Chief Librarian Ezekiel fought hard to recover the body and the chapter banner, defeating the demon prince in the process. Afterwards, the inner circle of the Dark Angels' leadership gave him the position of Keeper of Truths, and tasked him with not only leading the inner circle, a job that includes organizing the successor chapters of the First Legion, but also with ensuring the deepest and darkest secrets of the chapter remain so. One of his principal responsibilities is hunting the Fallen, members of the Dark Angels Legion who supposedly turned against the Emperor during the final years of the Horus Heresy.
Well, I guess not anymore.
And in this respect, he has performed very well, finding, capturing, breaking, and then eliminating many of his black-armored traitorous brothers. But Azrael would find himself taking the reins during the most turbulent time for his chapter, as conflicts against the Inquisition, a long-standing rivalry with the Space Wolves, and of course, the 13th Black Crusade threatened not just his chapter, but the Imperium itself. For their part, the Dark Angels were glad for the new Primaris recruits, with Azrael himself believing in the worthiness of his new brothers, so much that he mentored one through the chapter's exhaustive rites before deciding to cross the Rubicon Primaris himself. But a much more dire situation has developed as the chapter's original goal of hunting down the Fallen in hopes of wiping away their shame has come under scrutiny from none other than their own returned Primarch. With the Lion's unexpected return, he has shown his sons that some of the Fallen may in fact be capable of redemption. And given that Azrael and his entire inner circle have built their careers on destroying these former brothers, this leaves us wondering what will come of Azrael and if his many deeds could ever be forgiven by his Genesire. Azrael wields the Sword of Secrets, a master-crafted obsidian power sword reserved for the Supreme Grand Master.
I wonder what the story's going to be like with that.
His arsenal also includes the Lion's Wrath, a combi plasma gun, and the Protector, an ornate suit of power armor. He also wears a helm believed to have once belonged to the Primarch himself. When Azrael attempted to return it, the Lion refused, declaring that Azrael was worthy of wearing it and would only take it back if he ever believed otherwise. This gesture was a testament to the Primarch's trust in Azrael,
so that'll be interesting to see what the story goes with the Lion and stuff.
As he fights alongside the very legend who shaped his path.
It kind of seems like Games Workshop just kind of like drifts off with their
Going
lore.
from a secretive chapter to a chapter that strikes in secret.
Okay. All right, so there we go. I will stop right here. I'll go back a little bit. So there we go. So yeah, there we go. There's the first 5 most powerful chapter masters in all of Warhammer 40k. That is pretty cool. So yeah, Calgar and Dante and Gabriel Seth and Azrael. Pretty good list so far. You know, a lot of impressive deeds. I didn't know that about Calgar and stuff like that, and what transpired with his origin story. I mean, damn, that's pretty respectable. Stuff with, of course, Dante. I do wonder if any of these things will ever, you know, come true. Because what was Dante's thing? He's being kept alive for like this important moment that is supposed to happen. Like, I wonder if that's just something like, is that ever going to pay off, or is that just something to keep it going? You know, oh well, we got to keep Dante alive. You know, there is this moment that he is meant for. You know, we don't know when it's going to happen, but it's coming. You know, it's definitely coming. You know, and just kind of string it along. You know, or if there will actually be an actual payoff. I'm guessing they'll probably just string it along, because then what happens? I mean, that would make for some very interesting lore after that. And then the tabletop effect, because what if he dies? Then what happens? You know, Dante's no more. He's legendary, unless they throw him into a dreadnought. You know, do we take him out of the tabletop game? Do we keep him in? You know, it's been a while since I've played the tabletop game, so I don't know how things work and stuff like that. If, you know, characters are dead in the lore and stuff like that, you're still, like, using them. You know, but then that'd be some interesting lore, because then who takes over Dante's role? You know, so I don't know. That would be interesting. Like I said, whether there'll be an actual payoff or not, don't really know. And then, of course, the Fang Father. That is that was a pretty cool moment, you know, with him and the Grey Knights and the Inquisition, you know, coming in between them and, like, all the other humans and guardsmen that they just help fight chaos with, you know, and being like, well, time for you guys to die. Wait a minute, hold on here. They just fought alongside us. They lost men just like we did, and now we're just going to kill them all? Like, no, they sacrificed just as we did. So, I mean, mad props for that, you know. And then getting captured by the Inquisition, like I said, that's risky and dangerous, you know. I mean, you don't just capture a chapter master and not expect repercussions, you know. I don't know what would, you know, something like that happen. Like, just imagine, like, I don't know, Dante being taken captive by the Inquisition. I'm sure the Blood Angels would be perfectly fine with that. Oh, okay, we understand. Sure they would. Sure they would. Yeah. Because, I mean, I think it went so well with, you know, Dark Angels and the Inquisition have a great timeline. How many have just got lost when the Dark Angels were around? How many? I'm sure a few Inquisitors just took a wrong turn somewhere. The planet? Yeah, it's that way. Oh man. But yeah, that was a very cool, at least top 5. Can't wait to see who the first 5 most powerful chapter masters are. It's really cool learning, all their lore and stuff like that. So, and then of course the Lion and Azrael, that's going to be interesting. I mean, Games Workshop's going to kind of like keep with the lore. It just kind of seems like, they bring one thing out, do a little something with it, but then when something else comes out, that previous thing gets pushed off to the side, and here's new and shiny thing, like, what was it, Vashtor? You were getting something like really cool lore with that, but then Lion came back, and now it's like Vashtor was like pushed to the side, and it's next, and it just keeps pushing all these things to the side. Oh well, what's the Lion gonna do? Hey, here's Fulgrim. So sometimes they do. I think they do too much, but it is what it is. So, anyways, yeah, like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and like I said in the beginning, let me know who is your favorite chapter master and why. Let me know. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button, that'd be awesome. Remember, feel free to subscribe to my channel. And of course, if you have any videos you guys want me to check out, let me know down below in the comments section, and I'd be happy to do a video on it. Like I said, I'm definitely interested in learning more about, Guilliman's Resurrection, and how all that happened. How do you just let a Xenos race to your Primarch just because, yeah, I can help you. We can help. We can revive him, and just being like, oh, you're an alien race that, we were, just fighting you, a couple of years ago on this planet. Sure, here is our Primarch. Do your thing. Like, how, like, you think the Imperium, like I said earlier, would just let, like, the Necrons come in and be like, Golden Throne seems a little worse for wear. We can fix this. You wouldn't need to sacrifice all these Psychers every single day. We got, like, power cores and crap like that we can, like, fix this thing right up. And give them, like, a 10% boost. Oh, sure. Go ahead. Go and work on the Emperor and his Golden Throne. So, yeah, I definitely got to learn more about Guilliman's Resurrection. If you have any videos on that I would like to know. But other than that, just stick around. More videos are on the way, and I will see you guys next time.